No, this is my first time. Yeah, truly. Are you coming up?
Ever brought you to this workshop with this beautiful goddess, there are no accidents. Because of everywhere you could be at this moment, give yourself a great big hug because you are stepping into higher dimensions of love. We are here with Nazra, the beautiful Nazra Peterson. And what I just said to her, she's so gorgeous. And yet what I feel from her is even more beauty on her inside because your soul just shines. And I love what she, of all people, is going to be sharing today. The 7 relationship agreements of how to turn sex into sacred love. And it feels like we're all about to go on a journey together. And even for people that are all over the place, they're going to get to feel the frequency. So let's give our love to this beautiful goddess of love. Nazra Peterson, we're so happy to have you here. Thank you for sharing your light and your wisdom.
Thank you.
Let's give it up, Nazra Peterson.
Thank you. So I don't want to be selfish with my Canva design. Can we get this transported over to the monitor so everybody else can see my PowerPoint?
He'll be right with you.
Beautiful. Love it. Well, I'll just go ahead and get started. First of all, thank you all for coming. I'm so excited about this. I've been coming to the Conscious Life Expo for probably 10 years, and the past 3 years as a vendor, I have my booth along with another 2 massage therapists. And I'm really excited about this opportunity because it's my first time ever speaking here, and it's been a dream of mine for a really long time. So thank you for being part of that for me. So again, to reiterate, I am Nazra Peterson. I am a holistic healer, so basically a body worker, energy healer, and holistic integration coach. So that's just a bunch of fancy talk for when people get on my mat to do some soft tissue manipulation. They have a lot of emotional trauma release. And so I still don't quite know if it's that I'm bringing something out in people, if I make them cry, if they just came there on the edge of needing to release something. I'm still not sure. But what I do know is that when I was just a client for massage, I never really had these kinds of experiences before. And so one time a client contacted me and says, I want a holistic massage. And I thought, well, what is that? What is a holistic massage? And when I started getting these downloads and working with people, I realized that there's such a heavy pain body that exists in the world. And so from that, I basically started my mobile business here in Los Angeles, and I go everywhere. I've seen more places across LA and Southern California that I probably never would have gone to had I not have started this work. So it's a huge blessing to me, and I love it more than words. So a little background on me. So before I got into this work, my last job was working as an executive assistant for 3 accounting partners in West LA. So a far cry from where I landed now. I never would have thought it. And in 2020, it was a big shift, right? It was a lot for a lot of people. And I really honestly now feel that COVID didn't really create any issues so much as it revealed a lot of issues for people. It slowed the world way down, right? So all the things that we thought were life were really just distractions, from the commute to work, commute to school, and being away from your family, being away from your friends. It really was a time to be introspective and go inward. And some people didn't really quite know how to handle that. And so it was a time where people were really deprived of touch. And this is going to be a really big common theme throughout what I talk about, because I realized that in touching people, I wasn't just touching a body. I was touching a person who happened to inhabit a body and whose body had a story. And it was up to me to figure out, what is the story that your body is trying to tell? And I couldn't really make sense of some of these downloads. Now I get these, numbers or a person's name or an initial or some type of fear, some type of feeling that I knew wasn't mine. And as we go on, as we talk about one of the future relationship agreements, you'll see people will think, oh wow, you must be really psychic, right? We're intuitive, but it's a matter of how tuned in to your intuitive nature you are. And so what I do is a combination of things. So I don't just look at a clock and go, okay, great, you've got 60 minutes, let's just move through this. Let's go everywhere just to go everywhere. I go where I feel led to go. So if that means I need to spend an hour on your upper body, I spend an hour on your upper body. I need to spend 20 minutes on one toe, that's what I do. Because people need someone who's not just going through the motions, who aren't just on autopilot. And so through meditation, through breath work and integration, the integration is what comes up during. Because if someone starts crying, I'm not gonna be like, okay, well, it's kind of getting into your hour, you know? It's a little insensitive, it's not really the point. And to learn how to go beyond a transactional experience into something more holistic was something that I knew that I was called to do. And I've started to understand it better and better. And so one of the things that I realized, especially during COVID, with really everyone, there were people that didn't really know how to feel their feelings around the people in their own lives. Because people in our lives don't always create a safe space for our messy emotions, right? Everything needs to be positive and upbeat. And we're forgetting that the reason why we know what positive is because there is something called contrast. And so people think that just because, okay, this event happened 10 years ago, 5 years ago, 15 years ago, that they should be over it by now, right? I don't even really think about it anymore, they say. Well, your body does. Your body remembers. And there's a really great book called The Body Keeps the Score by Dr. Bessel van der Kolk, and I really encourage you to get into that kind of teaching because it's very telling about what's happening. And so what I realized, and this is how I created my mission statement, is what people needed. They didn't just need to internalize everything that they were feeling, right? They didn't need to intellectualize it. They needed to have a witness to their life in a different capacity than what they maybe even had at home. They needed a witness to their pain. They needed a safe space to cry, to release, to shake, to tremble, to feel. And they also needed a witness to their healing and a witness to their joy. And that's how I came about my mission statement, because I wanted to heal the heart of the matter. What were the underlying causes for a lot of what they were feeling physically, and understanding that the body and emotions are one. And so from there, I started to develop my very first self-help book that just released, and it's the 7 Relationship Agreements, How to Transition from Having Sex to Making Love. Now this is gonna get really, really interesting as I move through each of the agreements, because I'm gonna repeat myself at certain times, because each time I'm gonna be adding content. Because you need to understand the parallels between all of these different relationships and start to ask yourself questions on different levels of, okay, well, how does this apply here? And how is this having a ripple effect? So the first relationship agreement is your relationship to yourself and your emotions. And then we have the physical and energy body, which is going to tie into our pain body, our ego. Touch, which is one of my favorite things to talk about these days. Love, relationships, communication and conflict resolution, and also having sex and making love. Oh, I'm so sorry, I got chopped off right there, but at least it's at the top. So the relationship agreements, I wanted to find something where I could break down information in a way that people could process it. And so I came up with the relationship agreements because we all have different relationships to not just people, okay? This isn't just about romantic relationships. This is about all of our interpersonal relationships, including the relationship that we have to our experiences and to our values. So the way I describe it is emotional or energetic contracts that we have with all of these different parts of ourselves and parts of our lives. Because sometimes we can say we value something, but our actions say a different story. And so anytime there's that kind of a contradiction, we want to get curious about why it's there, because there's something on the other side. So, spoiler alert, you're going to see a lot of common themes between touch and self-neglect, because touch is something we need most, but we also need to put into proper context. And self-neglect is sometimes avoiding discomfort. Giving yourself the thing that you want to do, that you feel like doing, sometimes can be a form of self-neglect, right? If I want to eat a whole chocolate cake, I'm neglecting my health. That's just what I'm doing, right? So we want to go beyond, I want to, I feel like it, I'm gonna, right? Because from the time that we're kids, what we're told is, when you're an adult, you can do whatever you want, right? But that's horrible advice. That's horrible. No, you can't do everything. Well, unless it's legal. No, not everything that you want to do is a good idea. Okay? I used to come home and eat cookie dough because I was too lazy to cook. Okay, so it's not a good idea. So moving past this whole I'm an adult gives me free reign to be irresponsible is actually something that we need to heal. Because when we're actually given that information, our parents aren't giving us the whole story, right? Because now we're just delaying being irresponsible. I mean, you can be irresponsible at any age, so you don't have to wait until you're 18. So, with that in mind, so I want people to start to ask themselves, you know, what is your relationship to sex? And have you ever even stopped to ask yourself that question? Because if you don't know what your relationship to it is, then you're not really understanding what drives you. You're not really the master of your mind. And so just start to take a mental note of how would you describe that? And I'm not saying this so that you can just put in a little bite size. This is not like the 5 love languages and you can go, oh yeah, mine's quality time. Okay, great, that's wonderful. But let's go a little bit deeper. So would you say it's casual or loveless, right? Just even a gentleman outside earlier was saying, hey, yeah, I have this friend who says that she would rather just have sex with someone who she doesn't know, that she doesn't have a connection with. What's up with that, right? So we want to ask the why. Love-centered. Do you lead with your heart, right? And not just your feelings, but your heart in terms of elevation. Is it trauma-colored? Now, anybody who has like really big trauma knows that trauma can color different experiences, particularly in our relationship with sex, but it doesn't always stop there, okay? Not sure, whatever, it's in the moment, right? Well, or is it a combination? So a lot of how we think these days, especially with the songs that we listen to, that we have memorized, and if we have time, I really want to do a love song edit, but it will be in one of the workbooks, so it's a really interesting one. But whatever in the moment is how we think about sex on a very superficial level, right? Quid pro quo. I give you this, I give you that. Okay, great, transactional, easy exchange, right? But what if you could be in all of the moments? Prior to, during, and after. Because we can't really talk about what making love is if we don't always discuss what it isn't. And it's not just being in the moment. So again, what drives your sex drive? What are the emotions, and stop to think about this for a second. What are the emotions and thoughts that you feel and you think other than arousal when you plan to have sex with someone, right? I feel like when we were younger, we kind of put more thought into it. And then after we lost the mystery, we didn't really know what else to do, like how else to think of something. I feel like it. That's great, right? But why? Always ask why, and ask why from a place of empathy. So, the spiritual, physical, and energetic explanation of how I would describe making love is, if you know about chakras, who here doesn't know about chakras yet? Everybody knows about chakras, fantastic. Okay, so when I talk about this spiritual, physical, and energetic explanation, one of the things that I have come across so many times in my work, especially over the past 2 years, and it's a lot with, well, pretty much almost every age. And the way I would describe it, if we're going to look at it from a physical and a spiritual standpoint, because I really do come from a more spiritual, non-religious standpoint, but you might be able to find parallels between what I'm saying and your particular culture, right? So we have our chakras, our sexual chakras, our root chakra, and our sacral chakra, okay? And then we have our heart chakra, right? We have the others as well, we have all 7. But for the sake of making love, I want to focus on those 3. And the reason why is because that is where I tend to experience the most emotional release, particularly around painful breakups, whether that's divorce or not, whether it's through hookup culture, through loveless interactions, and a lot of pain in these lower regions of when we're talking about sacral chakra. So it's really interesting, and I looked it up and I said, why can't I find a good explanation for this? I don't like that. So the reason why I talk about sacred love is because your sacral chakra, what does that stand? Where is that located? What's the bone? The sacrum bone. Yes, the sacrum bone. And so I looked it up. Like, what does sacrum mean? And I looked it in the Latin, Greek. Okay, what does that mean? It means sacred bone or holy bone. Sacred bone or holy bone. And we also know that the sacral chakra has a lot to do with our creation, our creative center. And so if we're merging and we are allowing to unify these chakras, heart is about making love. Creation, making, art, love. And so what's happened is because we want to be the cool kids that don't really care about if love is involved or love is not involved, now we've actually disconnected these chakras from one another. And they're sending mixed information back and forth. And so now people are having a lot of the upper back pain and the shoulder blades and these upper areas and upper trapezius muscle, the arms. And I love when people say all of a sudden, I just, have this pain here. I don't know what I did. And sometimes it's not what you think. You're always looking for I didn't climb Mount Everest last week, right? So what could be causing this? And that's a lot of what I've experienced in my sessions, and that's where a lot of my data has come from. And so at the beginning of each of these, we're going to talk about asking yourself the question before and the end of each of these in the book and in the workshop as well. So conscious versus unconscious. What do I mean when I say unconscious?
Not aware of it.
Something that you're not aware of, yes. Something that's behind the scenes that you're not really paying attention to why it is that you're doing it in the first place, right? Attachment style. Who knows about attachment styles? Okay. Who hasn't heard of attachment styles yet? Okay. So attachment styles is really great. I mentioned that book I mentioned that particular book called Attached in this book. And we have 3 basic ones, right? And there can be a combination, but we have secure, anxious, or avoidant, right? Secure, most people think they are secure until I start talking or until they start reading the other book. So anxious is the person that always needs reassurance. Are we okay? We're kind of quiet this morning. Is it all right to do something? Oh my God, is it okay? Right? You're good? Okay, we're good, right? We're good, we're okay, right? Anxious, constantly needing that reassurance. Avoidant, I don't really want to be bothered. You're being too much. You're being emotional. And it tends to seem how they say opposites attract, right? But at a level of frequency. Anxious people really trigger the shit out of avoidant people and vice versa, right? Because the more the person is needing that reassurance, are we okay, are we okay, are we okay? And the other person's like, oh my God, I was like, just get away from me. I don't want to be around you anymore, right? And then we have emotional intelligence, emotional maturity, and emotional integrity. So what do you think about when I say emotional intelligence?
Become aware of how another person feels, empathy of their emotions and how they're feeling in certain situations.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Being able to relate to others on the heart and emotional level.
Absolutely. And yourself too. Yeah.
I will say, but it's also about knowing your own self, not just others.
Absolutely. And the more you start to know yourself and understand what drives you, right? The better you are at being able to offer empathy. But a lot of people stop there. Oh, I know why I did that. I did that because, my dad left when I was, 6. Oh yeah, I know why I did that because of this ex-boyfriend, whatever, right? But we need to take it a step further because you're not allowed to inflict your trauma onto other people. That should be a non-starter. But emotional maturity is when we take that information and we integrate it. That's the difference between a reason and an excuse. I understand why it is that I crave this particular type of food, right? I understand why I eat when I'm not hungry. It's emotional, right? That's just the intelligence of knowing, but it's not the maturity of doing, right? And then we have emotional integrity. This is a really tricky one because it's really easy. I mean, back in the day, I mean, if you remember back to when you were a kid, right? And you did something that you weren't supposed to do and your parents said, why did you do that? So, well, my friends were doing it, right? And if you had good parents, hopefully they said, okay, well, if so-and-so jumped off a bridge, would you go do it too? And you're like, oh, God, no, I wouldn't, right? But then we somehow along the way, because we reach adulthood where we can do whatever we want, we don't get challenged anymore, right? We associate being challenged with being misjudged or being put upon. So in this relationship agreement to ourselves and our emotions, we get very clear. So what is it when I say emotional? What does that even mean? Is it good or bad? First of all, let's start there.
Good.
Who said both? Yes. Right? So emotional, have you ever heard someone say, I'm not a very emotional person? But you see them emotionally react like a lot? Denial. Right? So emotional is not always good or bad. It's the situation, it's the relationship. Right? If a building is burning down, okay, that is a time to understand why you're emotional, but you can't both freak out in the middle of the burning building. You know, somebody's got to keep their head about them. It's not that you're devoid of emotion, right? We're emotional beings. We're emotional by nature. We didn't come here to be robots, right? We came here to feel. So would you say you're emotional? Yes.
Yes.
Do sometimes your emotions play tricks on you?
Yes.
Are you able to catch that and go like, oh, my bad. Okay, you know what? I went a little bit too far. Sometimes like way after the fact, you're like, yeah, it went there. So again, it's like our emotions aren't really necessarily good or bad. Like they're feedback for what it is that we need to pay attention to. And so one of the things I've had to learn, this has been a really big one for me. Here's what emotional intelligence is not. It's not intellectualizing your emotions, right? And we've all done it for the most part. Whoever notices with a kid, when you say something funny, what happens? They laugh, right? Do you know what happens sometimes in adulthood?
Cringe.
That's really funny.
That's true.
That's so funny. Well, notify your gut because I don't hear you laughing. You heard me breaking a smile. Oh, that's so funny. Oh. So it's not suppressing your emotions. It's not pretending like they don't exist. It's not saying you don't care when you care, right? So that's not emotional intelligence. That's emotional suppression. That's what we don't want to do, right? And our like I said, our emotions are not always just data, but they're not always directives either. But it's a directive of inside. Where do I go inside? What is that pushing up against? And so the sheer laughter of joy, like one of the things I noticed definitely during COVID is like, wow, when did I stop laughing out loud? I'm just typing LOL. Right? What happened? When did that happen? It's so gradual. And so we need the nuance. We need all of the emotions because they all tell us and they all color our experiences and we need it. And so I thought this was really fascinating because I hosted a retreat a few years ago that was called A Call for Love. And we literally had a cry circle where people just have a safe space to cry. And who here says, I get sad, I just don't cry? Yeah. Well, that's like saying, I think things are funny, I just don't laugh. Right? If someone ever said that, I think things are funny all the time, I just never laugh. You go, oh my God, what's wrong with you? Right? But when people say, oh, I just don't cry, that still exists inside of you. Emotional tears are different than our cleansing tears that we have, for smoke or like allergic reactions, different things like that. Emotional tears actually contain cortisol, which is our stress hormone. And so emotional tears contain other hormones and chemicals that help regulate our mood and our stress. right? But it's also about the meaning we assign to it. Some people cry, they feel worse because they're not used to feeling their feelings, right? Other people like cry, they have that release, and they're like, oh my God, I feel so much better, right? And so this is part of developing your emotional maturity. And so let's talk about trauma for a second, because this is really important. How many people feel like the word trauma is just used to death? Yeah. So what is trauma?
Stuff that happened to you when you were little or during your life at some point?
No. Anytime you
How you feel.
Anything emotionally
something that's pathological, something that's pathological is not healthy and normal.
Correct, yes. Can you say that again so they can hear?
Something pathological that's not healthy and normal.
Exactly. And so everybody has trauma. And I looked it up. Okay, what is the root word? Because I always get curious around certain things. What's the Latin or Greek? What does that mean? Trauma simply means hurt or wound. So guess what? No one's exempt from trauma. No one gets to, oh, okay, well, I'm not emotional and I don't have trauma. My parents were married for 35 years. For some people whose parents stayed married, that is their trauma. For some people. And so we start to hear this word pain body a lot, but trauma, the way I basically describe the pain body is trauma is in the form of energy. Because you can't really see it. Unless someone's actually showing physical signs and you see them crying, you don't always see it. Some people seem like they have it all together. They could be one of the most traumatized people in the room, but they've gone through and they've done a lot of work on themselves. But they still have it and they still have their moments, right? Because it's about not being a perfect human. And so let's talk about judgment for a second. I'm gonna go back to the last slide because I don't want you guys to peek at the things I have underneath it. But judgment, good or bad, friend or foe?
Some people say it's totally bad. According to Dr. Marshall Rosenberg of NBC Communication, I'm sure you probably heard, he said, we removed all the judgment, there will never be any wars. Even if you said something good, if you told someone, good job, you still had to judge that person. Did he do a good job or bad job?
Exactly.
But if you want to communicate with someone, you can say, what you did really satisfied a need of mine. So instead, that way, because we're always looking to get a need met.
Exactly.
All communication is a form of getting a need met.
Absolutely. And so, now I'll let you read my definition. Or actually not my definition, the dictionary's definition. So the one that we tend to focus on, oh, who am I to judge, right? That's what we say. And that's really, we say it because we're saying, oh, well, I don't want to be a hypocrite, right? But it's not hypocrisy that we fear, it's accountability, right? Hypocrisy only exists in the you. It never exists in the we. For example, you're eating potato chips. I'm sitting here eating glazed donuts. Go, wow, I can't believe you're sitting there, you're eating all of those potato chips. What's wrong with you, right? If I'm talking about accountability, I'm going like, look at how we're eating. This is bad. Like, why are we eating like this? Do we not love ourselves? What's happening, right? So judgment has a place. It's literally the ability to make considered decisions or come to sensible conclusions. You made an error in judgment, and you get to own that, right? And so what we're looking at that we get a little bit afraid of is that, oh, divine punishment, I don't want to punish anyone. It's not my place to punish anyone, but it is your place to tell the truth sometimes. And telling it to yourself and knowing how to receive information in a way that is actually with empathy. That's what we're usually missing when we're talking about judgment. Oh, I'm not saying that they're a horrible person. No, just because you have a trauma doesn't necessarily make you a horrible person, right? Otherwise, we'd all be pretty horrible, right? So, I'm not going to go too far into this, but I do want to touch on it slightly. So, guilt, good or bad? Friend or foe?
Bad, it has its uses.
Good or bad? Bad?
Could use it as driving force, though.
You can do what?
Could use it as driving force to pull yourself out.
Driving force to pull yourself out. And so, guilt, and this is going to be really important, especially when we get to the last relationship agreement. Guilt is just a sign that we didn't behave in alignment with our highest. That's all it means. And if you can take that and go, oh, okay, I feel, right? If you don't have guilt, you know what? People make TikTok videos of you and call you a narcissist, right? We're meant to feel guilty. We're meant to experience the nuance. It's a feeling, it's a feedback, right? It's a feedback mechanism. So that the next time you're faced with making that decision, you make a new decision. Hopefully. But when we have an unhealthy relationship with guilt, we'll move into shame. Guilt is something that you did. Shame is someone who you are. And if you believe that you are a bad person now, you will continue to double down on that behavior over and over again because you don't know how to process it. And so what happens is when we actually experience guilt, then remorse, we take reflection, we take a moral inventory, an emotional inventory, you get to change. Okay? So this is a good one, the physical and energy body. So I wanted to merge these because I'm just gonna have you guys, for a second, just touch a part of your body where you feel tightness, stiffness, or pain. Just drop in for a minute. What are you feeling in there? I see a lot of people, some people are with, okay, neck, upper trap area, a lot of neck and upper trap area for sure. Okay. Well, for all the people who aren't emotional, guess what? I have a quote for you. What the mind ignores, the body feels. What the mind ignores, the body feels. So just because you can't maybe read an emotion on someone's face, your body is reporting that information all the time. It is memorized everything since inception. And there is pain and there is joy. There are all kinds of emotions that even when you touch someone in a certain place, they get the giggles and they start laughing, right? There's certain ones that are like, I can't really go there. So what the mind ignores, the body feels. And so I want to bring you into just stay with this connection with your body. When you see the word human resources, I want to ask you what comes to mind. What comes to mind? HR, corporate, jobs, corporations. Yeah. What did you say? Payroll, insurance, exactly. So, I have a theory. The human body is one of the most used and yet simultaneously neglected human resources that we possess in our lifetime. And we get used to neglecting it. Remember I said, spoiler alert, it comes down to touch and self-neglect. I know I should exercise more, but I don't. Why? Let's get curious. What's in your pain body? What's in the subconscious? Okay? Start to ask yourself these questions because your body is telling you a story. Every time you don't process something or you, oh, well, I've cried about that enough, I'm going to stop now, you need to move that energy out. And so when we are not using our body in healthy, holistic ways, it is a misuse of resources.
Yes.
It's no worse than them hiring the wrong person for the job that you have to clean up after, right? Okay, well, this side hurts, I'm just going to go over here. Why not go and get it worked on? Maybe do that, right? Now we're going to put all this pressure over here. So start to think about that because I want to really turn you on to the different chakras because, again, you're going to do this with certain people at home and they're going to go, whoa, you're psychic. This is so cool. How do you know all of this stuff, right? So our 7 chakras. So who here has lower body pain? Pain in the glutes, legs, knees, feet. Okay. Root chakra. Do you feel grounded? Are you in survival mode? Do you feel like you have proper footing in your life? Where is that misalignment? My favorite thing to hear is when people say, you know, I don't know, I woke up one day and all of a sudden my knee hurts. You didn't hit it? I must have hit it, I just don't remember hitting it. How would you not remember hitting your knee? Just think about that and think about what's been going on in your life emotionally that you're still processing because people love to say, oh yeah, it's just stress. Okay, what kind of stress, right? And instead of only approaching things on a very physical level, approach it also on an energetic level. And you'd be surprised, like, oh, I need to ask for help more. I need to ask for more support. I'm carrying all the responsibilities in this relationship, right? We have a left side and a right side. All the strain is on the left side, feminine energy. Right side, masculine energy. Known a lot of people now that there's a lot of women in their masculine energy, a lot of men in their feminine energy. It's imbalanced. It's too much. We're not meant to use the right side of our body all the time. We're not meant to use the left side of our body all the time. And we can say, oh yeah, well, there's these physical things. Yeah, but you don't just have a physical body, you also have an energy body. So you want to pay attention to that. You want to look at, I feel, self-worth. We're going to talk about STTs here in a second. Sexuality, creativity. Who has pain in the hips? Who has pain in the low back? Okay? All right. So loss of creative energy. Loss of self-worth, feeling a little insecure. Maybe there's a sexual energy exchange going on, where maybe something is residing in you that wasn't originally yours. Okay, we'll talk about that in a second. We're gonna get to it. I do, energy. Digestive issues, liver problems, mid-back, lumbar and upper and lower thoracic spine. Okay? Self-expression, communication. This is a really big, oh, sorry, I skipped one. Love. Upper body. So again, hands, arms, upper traps, back, upper back. You want to look at that. Blood pressure issues. What do you have going on? What is driving these pain points in your life? Especially when it's chronic, and especially when you think it's all of a sudden. Because one of the things that I hear the most is when people say, oh, well, once you turn 35, all of a sudden one day you just bend over and your back goes out. Bullshit. No. God made us a lot more sturdy than that. Okay? I speak. Throat chakra. Anybody experience neck pain who's maybe not speaking their truth about something? Who maybe doesn't have their words received very well? I used to get a lot of chronic throat infections when I was growing up, because apparently when you're an only child, people don't always want to hear what you have to say. Especially when you're more insightful than the adults around you. I see. Neglect. Intellect, intuition, super spiritual power, headaches, blurry vision. What's going on in here? What is it you're avoiding looking at? What do you not want to see? What are you avoiding? And then, I know. All right? Vertigo, brain fog, trouble sleeping. I have a theory right now, and I've had one for a really long time. People who have a hard time sleeping are not at rest in their mind. There's something they're not dealing with during the day. Just kind of how they say with ghosts, right? Ghosts they don't move on because they have unfinished business. Your mind and your body still has unfinished business during the day that you're not tending to. And so there's no reason why, if you're extremely sleepy, that you should not be able to close your eyes and go right to sleep. And so if that's developed into something more medical, that's something you also want to look at. And so I'm not saying that there aren't physical things that happen. What I am saying is that we are multidimensional beings, and we want to look and address things from a multidimensional standpoint. So here's the love versus unlove situation that we have going on. Because again, I feel, I love. When these chakras are not aligned, you're now transferring the energy of unlove. Especially when you are exchanging sexual energy with someone that you don't know, that you don't like, that you want to be with, they don't want to be with you, they want to be with you, you don't want to be with them. You're misusing these resources. And there's going to be consequence. And so this transmission of energy, right? We always talk about like sexually transmitted, diseases and infections. But what about the energy? There's an energy exchange, right? If I have socks on and I go across this carpet and create some friction, some energy, what's going to happen? Sparks, right? sparks aren't always like the way we try to be like, oh, it's fireworks, right? No, there's an energy exchange. Those energy is in the form of emotions, and some of those emotions are in the form of trauma. And it's not about the person deliberately doing that. It's about also what's driving you to exchange the sexual energy with another person, and what's driving them. And being curious enough to ask those questions, and then change your decisions accordingly. So this is a good one, touch. I love it. And by the way, which is really interesting, when I look at the 5 love languages back in the day, I used to go, physical touch was last. And now I'm in my line of work and physical touch is at the top. But touch is transformative, because in its purest form, it's a medicine. But in its worst form, it can be a drug. That's anything, right? Food, in its purest form, it can be a medicine. In a lower frequency, it's a drug. Sex, its purest form, medicine. Worst form, lowest form, drug, right? And so really starting to ask yourself, how is it that you care to be touched in your life? And so I wanted to merge these two next relationship agreements because they have the same needs. And what you'll realize is that all of these have the same needs. So this is how important touch is. This is the first sense you actually develop in utero. It's 7 weeks old. You're the size of a raspberry. And so you already can actually feel sensations in your face. That means something. It's vital for a life force. We're not meant to be in isolation. We're not meant to be a planet of 8 billion people who doesn't touch each other. And in our culture, unfortunately, in a lot of Western cultures, we very much hypersexualize touch. People can be very anti-touch, but be also very sexual with their touch at the same time. Oh yes, I'll have sex with this person, but don't touch me. There's a disconnect, right? Again, the contradictory energy. There's a trauma there, and we want to look at that. And it's also, this is surprising, it's one of the most dangerous senses to not have in your life. There's a very, very rare autoimmune disease, and I don't remember the name of it, but there's a very rare autoimmune disease that less than 1% of the population has. And if you cannot sense where your body is in space, you can't walk, you can't hold a spoon, you can't sense pressure. And there's a really great little animation TED talk where a man was literally, he had to look and watch his feet hit the ground in order to be able to walk without falling down. And so this is a very important sense that we have. So Virginia Satir was a psychotherapist back in the 60s, 70s, or 50s through 70s. And she said we need 4 hugs a day for survival, 8 for maintenance, and 12 for growth. How many are at a deficit right now? I think a lot of people are at a deficit. I know a girl from Argentina, she said when she came here to the United States, she had a really hard time with adjusting because in her culture, when she went to work, everybody hugged each other when they greeted. And she was getting 20, 30 hugs a day. That was just her norm. When she came here, she had a really hard time adjusting because we tend to mistake touch for something other than what it needs to be. And we have such a hyper-sexualized and hyper-sex-focused society that we don't understand how to even understand the nuances of touch and how we have different needs for them. And so I'm curious, and this is something to ask you, are you at the survival rate? Are you below the survival rate? Are you at the maintenance phase? Below maintenance? Between maintenance and growth? And how can you integrate that into your life? Because part of the reasons why people don't make love to each other is because they don't know how to interpret touch. They don't know how to call it in. So they're either neglecting the touches that they actually want, but they're receiving the ones that are most accessible. And so that's what brings us to love. How many people think that there's a thing called toxic love? one of the worst things I think that people can tell you is that, hey, in their own messed up or screwed up way, they really do love you. Horrible advice. Horrible. Do you know why? If you believe that toxicity is love, you'll go through anything. You'll go through anything. You'll tolerate anything. There is no form of toxic love. There are only toxic people and toxic traits. So if someone only learns how to love you, look, here's the thing. Everyone feels within their own emotional capacity, but love is no exception to that rule. They might just have a very, very tiny capacity, have a really, really big capacity. And now we have a misalignment. And that's where a lot of anxiousness can come into play, where we go, do you love me? Are you sure? Or does it feel like they love me? Or no, I can't really tell. Like that back and forth. We don't want that. We need secure love. And if we're trying to love someone and download all of our love capacity onto them, it just doesn't really work that way. Right? And so that's our own trauma. We think I'm being such a good person because I'm being so loving. But how unfair to you? Right? How unfair to you? Especially if they're not even making a conscious effort. And so these are the first 4 of our basic needs for love and for touch. And so the first one is safety and protection. If you don't feel safe, nothing else matters. What's the point? Right? I remember someone asked me years ago, and they said, you go to people's homes and you touch them. Don't make it sound so weird, first of all, but yeah, I mean, I do. But I said, well, is that safe? And I remember saying, this is the epiphany I had. He said, is that safe? And I said, yeah, it's safe. I can protect myself. And I went, oh, okay, got it. The moment you feel like you have to protect yourself, you don't really know if it's safe. Or you definitely know it's not safe. Either way. And so what I was really needing to communicate was, I have the ability to protect myself and make sure that I stay safe. Not necessarily the other way around. Fully expressed and fully received. So this is being about seen, heard, and understood. And so when I talk about being seen, heard, and understood, it's just, can you receive me? Can you receive what I'm saying? Look at how we talk about the word touch, right? When it comes to words. That was a really touching speech that you said. What you said really touched me, right? I was so touched by that gesture. It was such a lovely, touching gesture. That's something that's part of us, energetically. We need to feel seen, right? We need to be able to exchange the glance across the room with the person that we know. She gets it. Yeah, oh, he gets it. Yeah. They're getting me right now, right? That's touching, right? And so the next one is for love, support, and connection. So if you're not supported, and I don't mean just financially, because sometimes people will use that as a way to say, see, I support you, so I can just kind of treat you however I want. No, you can't, right? But then that feeling of support and connection, that's not just a need of love, it's a need for touch, right? And it's, again, this trace back to the safety and protection thing, right? We want to feel that when we're talking to someone, oh, you're not going to take it out of context, right? You understand what I'm saying, you're not going to get offended, right? That can be a very unsafe feeling. That if I share something with you, now you're going to leave me, right? I can't be honest with you, oh no. Touch that heals, or love that heals, healing touch, right? Not just through body work, but even just the warmth of another person, right? Innocence, what happened to it? What happened to it? I was talking to a client who said one of the things that he realized, he started to be very transactional in his exchanges with women and doing some very uncool things and massage parlors, I'll call it that. I don't even really like to call it massage. But he said one of the things that he noticed that at a certain age, his mom didn't really hug him as much anymore. He was getting older, he's a big boy, he doesn't need that anymore. And what it did is it started to fuel this desire of like, well, let me get another touch, right? And so it became sexualized. And he lost his innocence to it. And the thing is, we don't really need to lose our innocence to touch just because we're older, right? I know sex is like this rite of passage thing, but we don't need to sexualize all of it. We need that innocence. Because if we don't, we just misinterpret touch all the time, right? People will give it for the wrong reason. The touch of empathy and compassion. Wow. Right? The whole like, don't cry. Don't tell people don't cry. Horrible advice. What they're really saying is that I'm really uncomfortable with you being so comfortable with your feelings. I don't really know how to do that. I need you to stop that now. Please don't cry. You're going to make me cry. Oh, I'm going to actually trigger emotion inside of you that you're not used to regulating and holding space for. Right? This is the need for touch and love. Sacred sexual touch, and I have to talk about this. Because sacred sexual touch is really about not just consensual, right? And again, I looked it up. What is the Latin or Greek form of consensual? Basically means to feel together, right? Two alcoholics can feel together. Two people who want to break their diet can feel together. Two people who go to the gym together can feel together, right? So consensual isn't really the point, right? I mean, it's part of the point, but it's not sacred, right? And sex isn't bad, it's just sacred. But when we don't give it a meaning of love, that's when we do it a disservice. And then the final need for touch and love is also the need to be untouched. Someone says no, it's a no. That's it. Many people have seen other people's lives completely ruined by someone who violated their need to be untouched. Because not everyone deserves access to you, and not everyone deserves an explanation as to why. It's a no. And how that relates to love is if someone keeps hurting you, the only way they know how to stop hurting you is to just do no harm. That's also a need to be untouched. Leave it alone. You don't know how to be here. Which of your needs for love and for touch are being met in your current relationship with yourself, with your most challenging parent, with your most challenging sibling, with your most challenging shit-situationship, with your most challenging relationship, whatever it is. Which ones are being met? Which ones are not being met? Because this is the way you do an inventory of actually what's going on. Because a lot of times we'll say, oh, but I really love this person. Great, which one of these needs are being met? Can you go back to the other one? Can you go back to the other one? What are you basing that love on? Well, they say that they love me. Oh, they said it, it must be true. Right? Just because someone says something doesn't necessarily make it true, doesn't necessarily make it the fullness of the capacity of what it is that you need in order to be sustained. Right? It's not that they have to do everything, but you can't give me any of these 8 needs right now. In that case, love is just an emotion they feel that you don't get to access the benefits to. And how unfair to you. How unfair to you. I love how it just completely misaligned. This looks so perfect on my camera. Anyway, so look at these and determine what these current and missing touches are from your life, and see how it is that you can have those needs met. How you can meet those needs first for yourself, how you can meet those needs for the people that are closest to you. What time is it? I'm Southern, so I always think I have more time than I do. Oh, don't have enough time. But the love song edit, I promise, is in the workbook, and it's really great. But I do want to show one to you. This is really good. So, programming, right? I talked about programming earlier. Programming is TV programming, right? It's programming. You're downloading information. Radio programming. You're programming information. I found myself in the car, I was singing the song, singing my heart out. I was like, I love this song, it's so good. She really hits all the notes, it's fantastic. Who knows the words? Who knows the words to the song, other than like what I'm saying, right?
Yeah.
Sweet thing, sweet thing.
Yeah,
I will love you anyway, even if you can't stay. What? Hello, attachment anxiety, a little bit. I think you are the one for me. Here's where you want to be. You don't get to unilaterally decide. It's like, here's where you want to be. You get to decide that for someone else. This is not a human trafficking situation. You don't get to just like call dibs on people like that. It's not cool. I just want to satisfy you because you're not mine and I can't deny it. Okay, you're not. So is he with someone else? Like, what is this? Why are you begging this person to be with you? Don't you hear me talking, baby? Love me now or I'll go crazy. You'll go crazy? It sounds like you're already there, lady. You are already there. Whoa, sweet thing, don't you know you're my everything? You just said that he's not there. And clearly he's not there because he doesn't want to be there. I wish you were my lover, but you act so undercover. Okay, so he's attachment avoidant. Got it, understood. Love you, child, my whole life long. It's be right or be wrong. I think you're already very clear in the fact that you're wrong. It's not good. So start to notice if there is a disconnect between your desire and what you feel. What's programmed in here. I haven't heard that song in years. I'm like still singing it like it was just yesterday.
Is that Whitney?
Huh?
Is that Whitney?
No, it was originally Shaka Khan, and now it's Whitney. And now it was then Mary J. Blige actually. So start to notice a correlation. Pay attention to what it is that you're saying. Your words have energy and they have power, right?
Yep.
And so in the love song edit, what I encourage you to do in the workbook is to take some of your favorite songs and rewrite them. And sing it from your heart. Sing your desire into it. Until eventually you can forget these other horrible lyrics. They're awful. So, Adele's song, sorry, I have to touch on this really, really quick. Can't read it on here. I heard that you found a girl and that you're married now. I heard your dreams come true. I guess she gave you things I didn't give you. Okay. Old friend, why are you so shy? Why are you so shy? He's not shy. He's just not with you. He's with the other girl. You just said it. You just said it a second ago.
Yeah, right.
I ain't like you to hold back or hide from the light. You're in denial because you just literally are contradicting yourself. I'd hope you'd see my face. He doesn't care about your face. He loves this other girl. And that you'd be reminded that for me, it isn't over. This is just very, very sad. And then she ends it in the chorus with, I hope I find someone like you. Why?
Right.
Let's not. Change how you think. Change what's playing in the background of your mind. Rewrite your own narrative. We're not going to sing about these because that's just going to send me over the top. Okay. So, relationships. Here's the thing. I can tell you that we are so focused on finding the one that we miss all the ones. We are meant to have people, like I said in the beginning, be a witness to our life, a witness to our joy, a witness to our pain, a witness to our healing. We are meant to have that. We are meant to have community. We're not just supposed to have one person do everything, be everything. That's exhausting, right? So, not ignoring your friendships just because you're in a relationship is a lot. This is really interesting. I went to, one of the things they had us do in massage school is that we went to a retirement home and we worked on different people. And some had like these really amazing stories of, I was married for 35 years, I was married for 20 years. married for 40 years. I'm like, wow, that's really so beautiful. And I asked this woman, I said, what's the thing that you wish that, you might have done differently, or what was your favorite part? She said, I really wish I would have made more friends, because once my husband died, I didn't have anybody. And people do that too much, and we normalize it. We normalize these societal norms of, well, I don't have time now because now I have a boyfriend. Okay, he can have friends too, right? He gets to go play with his friends and go and watch the things that you don't want to watch, right? That's okay. Like, we need to normalize this. It's not 8 billion people so we find just one person. And that we stop having friendships in high school or in college. We're like, oh yeah, that was just a really good friend. Where are they now? And not even necessarily the same person, but where's your friendship group? Where's your community? Because when we put so much pressure on one person to be the everything, it puts a lot of strain on that relationship. And so I have to talk about relationships because I also have to speak about communication and conflict resolution, because we need to understand why so many relationships don't make it. And it's not because they don't always love each other. It's not always that. Sometimes it's simply that we don't know how to communicate with one another. We don't know how to resolve conflict. And there will be conflicts. But pretending like we're not going to have them just because we don't talk about anything, you just have a watered down relationship where you can't speak your truth, and your relationship is based on making sure that let's not get emotional, right? Let's not feel the messy emotions. And so what I find is that relationships are only as strong as their weakest argument. I've known people who were friends for 5 years, for 8 years, for 12 years. They had one disagreement and it fucking fell apart. Do you know what the furthest distance is between two people? I love this quote, it's so good. I wish I knew who said it. What do you think the furthest distance is between two people? Pride. Pride. We don't want to be that way in our relationships. It's the reason why we have so many issues in our romantic relationships, is because we don't have enough relationships to practice being honest with. We don't have enough people to practice being wrong with. We don't even spend enough time with our friends in adulthood in order for there to be conflict to solve. And then by the time it happens, we don't even have the tools to solve it or to resolve it. And so, to me, beyond the 5 love languages, quality time, words of affirmation, receiving gifts, acts of service, physical touch. I'm not talking crap about these, but I'm just saying, how far is receiving gifts really going to get you in love? How far are acts of service? Like, hey, honey, can you do some more stuff, please? I'm not saying that that's wrong. Yeah, I mean, that's fantastic. But again, you want to make sure you're not having a transactional experience. You don't want it to be quid pro quo. So I think that the 5 love languages should be the 5 apology languages, which is actually the same author of that book. Expressing regret, accepting responsibility. Oh, it's so hard to just say that you're wrong. I'm not perfect. Okay, great. Keep building on that. Okay, can you take responsibility now? Well, you did that. Like, well, that's not really exactly what I meant, but okay. Making restitution, planned change. I had a friend once say, yeah, I really wanted the plan change. Like, that's my apology language. After it took her like 3 years to actually take it. But I said, how can we plan the change if we don't acknowledge that there needs to be a change? Right? Requesting forgiveness. Okay? So expressing regret, saying I'm sorry. Never give a disingenuous apology to anyone, ever. Because it's only going to be a matter of time before it comes up again. And you go, but you said that you were sorry. Well, I just said that because I don't do that. It's horrible. You lose credibility, it starts another argument, and now you haven't even resolved the last conflict, and now you still have the same conflict, and now you've just compounded it. Saying I was wrong. Oh, what a big word, the W word. Oh, I was wrong. Oh no. Showing up for love means showing up in the truth, no matter how inconvenient it is. And you do it for the sake of healing. Making restitution, making amends, right? I'm actually going to now, here's what I would do next time, right? Making steps, saying, okay, well, next time before I commit to doing something, I'm gonna plan this out a little better, and here's how I'm gonna, we're gonna take it a step further, right? Requesting forgiveness. Guess what? You don't unilaterally get to decide that just because you uttered the words, I'm sorry, that everything's all good again. That is a mutual decision. And what you guys all came here for. Woo! Oh, it's 23 minutes. Oh, God. Okay. Having sex versus making love. What is helping us transition from having sex to making love? What stands in our way? What do you think stands in our way?
Opening our hearts. Like sex is just an act, and when you make love, you open your heart, exchanging energy.
Which person are you serving?
Maybe being aware of what you really want too.
Yes, I love it.
Maybe focusing on the physical sensations more than the emotional sensations.
Exactly. Yes. All of the great answers. Thinking beyond the orgasms. That's how I like to put it. Pretty simple. Packs a punch and people remember it. So thinking beyond the orgasms. Just because, okay, great. You got off, right? Okay, you got off. Okay, great. All right, fantastic, wonderful. Like this is like a mutually beneficial situation. But at more like at a superficial level, right? Because like I was saying in the beginning, it's not just being in the moment, it's being all of the moments. All of the moments. What's driving you to be there? Because when you don't know what's driving you, you're really not the master of your mind. You're really not. You're just on autopilot. And you're going, well, I wanted to, so I did. Not always a good idea. And so renegotiating a relationship agreement is really about no longer renegotiating your sex life to exclude love. And not just love of the act, right? Because that's what makes it transactional. Love of that person. Love of who you are with that person. And that mutual exchange. That renegotiation, what we've done in hookup culture has been very harmful to people in ways that they don't even realize. The TV programming, I'm like Samantha in Sex and the City. Like, oh, this is great, I don't love anybody. We have these false senses of what the norm is because that's what we keep getting reinforced all the time. And it's up to us to really make sure that we move past that and go, oh, this is for entertainment purposes only, got it. So I can get lost in fantasy, but like, let me keep it in the fantasy world, right? It's kind of like when I was a kid and I would watch Bugs Bunny, like play baseball by himself, and he'd like bat the ball and then he'd like catch it. Like, wow, that's incredible. And it didn't take long for me to realize, like, oh, that's not reality. I can't do that. I was an only child. I really wanted to be able to do that, right? But trying to do something just because you see it on TV and people make it look normal and they romanticize it and they make it look cool doesn't make it cool. And so, again, what we really want is touch. When we give into the whatever, self-neglect. We think we're getting something, but we're not really getting something. So sex, good or bad? Friend or foe?
When done healthily is the best medicine in the world.
Fuck yes. Yes. Very well said. Love that. Exactly. It comes down to like so many things in our lives that we enjoy, it comes down to the situation, the relationship of it, right? It's the emotional intelligence, the emotional maturity, emotional intelligence of why do I want to be with this person? Oh, because I want to build a life with this person. They want to build a life with me. We want to align in love. We want to ascend in love together. Not just this superficial quid pro quo. The maturity. Now I'm not going to keep renegotiating my life to exclude love. Right? I'm going to renegotiate that contract. We're just going to redline it and go like, okay, there's no love here. Got it. Okay. I'm not going to allow this exchange of unlove inside of me. And what really sets the tone is the first time. It does. It sets the tone. It sets the precedent of what it is that you think is accepted, what you think is normal, right? What you believe to really be true. And so a lot of times the first time is all about, we just didn't do anything yet because, if we had like very, very religious parents who said, to boys, like your little thing is gonna fall off if you do it too soon, right? Girls, they're like, oh, they're gonna hate you and they're gonna talk about you. Like, we don't really understand why it is that we're making these decisions in the first place. And so as we get older, we just move through life continuing to be kind of oblivious. Why am I doing this? And what's keeping me from doing it other than because I'm nervous or I'm scared or I don't know what it's gonna be like, I don't know what it's gonna feel like, right? Not with the unknowns, but with the knowns. What do you know now? What do you integrate now into your life, into adulthood? So again, like I said, it depends on the situation and the relationship to it, right? Food, eating. It's about the situation, the relationship. Food isn't necessarily good or bad. Not all food is good, not all food is bad. Not all sex is good, not all sex is bad, right? It's the circumstances that brought you there, that keep you there. And what you want that to mean for yourself, in your relationship to yourself and your emotions, other than you feel like it. And so this is no longer about just permission, right? Casual sex, hookup culture, that's all about permission. Making love is about ascension. It's about connecting the divine masculine and divine feminine energy and ascending in love together. It's what it was always meant to be, right? Like, so we think, right? This sacrum bone, the holy bone, connecting to the heart, that means something. Nothing's just named by accident. I mean, some things have really stupid names, but I don't think that that's one of them. I think that definitely means something. There's a reason why creation, birth, life exists from these chakras. There's a reason for that. And so again, starting to come full circle, is this self-neglect or versus is it intimate touch, right? Because in this world that we have to be cool and we have to accept whatever, right? We have to accept whatever. And who are we to judge and who am I to say? We have people around each other that aren't even telling themselves the truth. And so now we're not telling each other the truth. Oh no, it's gonna go back to conflict resolution. Now they're gonna get mad at me. The truth isn't welcome here. I can't say anything. And so people keep perpetuating this cycle over and over and over again, and they've done it for generations because no one asked the deeper questions of why they're doing what they're doing. And so the unconscious model of sex and relationships is not the same as like the conscious model of sex and relationships. It's not the same. Because one is always about renegotiating your life and this idea that we just want to be loved. We do. That's all we want. The only reason why people are actually having loveless sex and making it cool is because they're afraid of getting their heart broken. So they're just like, let me just shut it down from the beginning, and I'm gonna like show up and like not disappoint you, and you're gonna show up and not disappoint me, but you're already disappointed. You're just preemptively disappointed. You just agreed to show up and not disappoint each other further. Right? I mean, what it really comes down to. And so that loveless sex model says that we have friends with benefits, but we're not telling a full story. It's friends without the benefit of support, without the benefit of connection, without the benefit of emotional safety. Is my love safe here? Is that allowed? Because the more compromises you make, the more decisions you have to make in the long run, right? Well, I agreed to this, and now that means I can't do this. Okay, I have to do all of these different things to just make sure that I keep up with the last decision, the last compromise that I made. Because you're compromising. You're saying, yes, I will allow lovelessness to be here. This is my exchange with you. And so what we end up doing is saying, oh, I support loveless sex. In the name of loving sex, there's a little contradiction there. I love sex, and I support loveless sex. But you already took love off the table, so what are you loving? All you're doing is just finding something that feels better than the loneliness, the emptiness, the breakup, the loss of someone that you loved. It's a cover-up. It's learning how to renegotiate yourself out of feeling what feels uncomfortable with something that feels at least comfortable for a little bit, for a moment, the moment. And so that is the cost of renegotiating your sex life without love, because now you're exchanging this energy back and forth so much that it becomes your norm. And so you start to desensitize yourself and go, okay, I guess I don't really need love anyway, see? Well, what was that about? We only go towards the thing that's most accessible, right? Not necessarily the thing that we want the most, that we desire the most. We go with the thing that's most accessible. Just like before, the drive-through was $20, right? Oh, this is more accessible, it's cheaper, it's faster, right? Now it's just faster, it's not really cheaper, right? But we do that so that we can have like a low risk, but it is still at a risk because it's us, it's our bodies, it's our energy. And that promotes a release, it really promotes a false sense of sexual empowerment, right? What does that mean? That I'm empowered. True empowerment happens through love, right? Not the avoidance of love. Empowerment, oh, Sex in the City. I'm not like Charlotte. Charlotte's lame. I would say that character is probably the most empowered because she actually has the guts to lead with her heart. The one who is saying, I'm just going to check my heart at the door and just pretend like I'm just walking pair of genitals, that's not empowerment. It's convenience, fun, right? You created a dopamine release. You know how to have a dopamine release. Okay, you can have a dopamine release doing a lot of things. You can have dopamine release eating the wrong food and call it treating yourself, right? So there's a lot of things where we can create dopamine release, but not everything that feels comfortable is healthy. Not everything that feels uncomfortable is unhealthy. So what is safe sex? That's what I learned back in the day. All right, here we got a banana, we got a condom, all right, like let's do this. But the thing is that physically, okay, sure, it's safe, right? But what about with the energy exchange? Because safe sex is not even necessarily a safe place to love or to be loved. So what's the point? I have to put my heart over here. Okay, we don't need this here. Okay, all right, sum up, perfect. And so these transactional experiences, like I said, go into, I'm an adult, I feel like it. Wow, I've been saying that since I was 4 years old, right? When you told your parents, I'm like, I want to. Like, yeah, no, can't do it. I feel like it. Don't make me do it, I don't feel like it. These consciousness of different ages all live within us. And if we actually take a second to see why it is that we want to do something, I'm going to do it, I want to do it because I feel like it, I'm going to do it, right? And a lot of times we're not really saying that much different as an adult. We're not making adult decisions, we're just making decisions and we happen to be adults at the time that we're doing it. And so what the main 4 qualifiers are for having sex versus making love is love available here? Not just available to someone else, right? Someone's trying to use you to get over somebody else. Is love welcome here? Is my love welcome here? Is it safe here? And will it be reciprocated here? See how that's different than that? Anybody notice the difference? You got that, or you got that? Is love safe here? Is love welcome here? Is love available here? Will it be reciprocated here? Am I not just being used? Because a lot of the times, because guys have said this to me a lot, well, you know, sometimes when like they initiate this exchange, so I got permission. It's like, I'm not saying you didn't get permission. I'm just saying you didn't bother to ask why you got it. That was a good one, huh? Because we don't care anymore. We don't care about permission anymore. We only care about permission now. We don't care about why. And so guess what? It goes back to our essential needs for touch and love. We don't have empathy. Because nobody said, hey, like, you seem like, I mean, I'm telling you right now I'm not gonna love you, and you're going for that. Well, I'm not gonna love you either. Okay, great, okay, cool. Right? And people say, well, you know, I don't have to like love them in order to like enjoy having sex with them. I'm like, well, you know what? You don't have to love yourself either. You're communicating the energy of unlove. You don't know what beliefs and traumas you're bumping up against in these decisions that seem like very innocent and harmless. You got it, you got it, you got it, you got it, right? It's not reciprocated. You don't want something one-sided. But we'll settle for it, right? Especially if we've been told that somebody that is in our family, they love us in their own messed up way, we're a lot more likely to go for it. And so, sex that is protected with love versus sex where love is safe, right? So, I actually shouldn't say versus, but anyway. But sex that is protected with love is actually sex that is safe. If the sex is safe, the sex is really only safe is when the love is safe. The love is welcome there. The person is willing to show up for you. They're willing to show up for themselves in all of the moments. And this is part of how we start to integrate this new information, right? Integrate it and embody it. Not just love the act, but love the person, connect with the person, right? And for those who say, oh, well, yeah, you know, I call up my friend and, you know, sometimes we have sex, it's great. But you know why a lot of people do it? It's because they just actually wanted touch. Sometimes that's all they really wanted. Sometimes people weren't even in the mood. They're like, well, according to the rules of hookup culture, I can't have love here, so I'm just like, oh, you want to have sex? Right? If you go like, hey, I just really need a hug right now. What an unsafe world we have created and that we have agreed to co-create. When it's safer to ask for sex than it is to ask just for basic touch. And that's how we heal. We don't heal by avoiding love or avoiding the disappointment that sometimes that comes when love is not showing up, right? But at least we can actually agree, we personally can agree, I will show up for love. Not with just anybody, right? Not if you know the person already told you they're not gonna love you, but really show up. That is part of how we transition from having sex to making love. Thank you. Sorry I didn't allow more time for actual questions, but I do have 5 minutes, so. Yes, hi.
I'm originally from Italy, and Italy we kiss all the time. I mean, even men to men.
Yeah.
Even like uncle to uncle,
Mhm.
or nephew, whatever. And sometimes what I do here in America, it's when I'm in social situations, After I develop a little rapport with a lady, sometimes, like, I remember one time, oh, you like Tony Robbins? I like Tony. I just go, I go for a hug. I get a hug, or I do a high five, or a fist bump. But then I also say, after I get a little rapport going, I say, can I show you how we say hello Italian style? And I wait for them to say yes.
Right.
Yeah. And so they say yes. And I say, okay, give me your hands. I say it softly, let me see your hands, and I just kiss her on the cheek.
Yeah.
Now, I do that quite often.
Okay.
Now, I'm on this like virtual call on Monday nights. It's like she's like a dating coach. She says, oh, they say the women are saying yes, but they really meant no. They don't want to be touched. They don't want, she says, and I was trying to tell her, sometimes I'll also do the heart-to-heart connection where it says, take your heart. I tell the woman, this is like in a club, imagine it's in a club. So I take your heart and put it on my heart. I let her do it first. So now I tell her, I'm gonna put my hand on your heart. And I do it.
Yeah.
And she was cutting me off, this lady who's the host, saying, oh, they don't really like doing that. Women don't want that. They're saying yes, but they really mean no. So I'm thinking about, if they're saying yes, but they really mean no, and you said something earlier, no means no. We ask them for sex, and they say no. Does that mean yes? Or where's no and no? Yes and yes and no.
I mean, it's definitely not your responsibility to read minds, and you do want to be able to read energy a little bit and body language.
Yes.
And if someone is pulling away or they make a weird face, we're going to notice that, right? And maybe asking, like, are you sure, right? But you can't make someone be honest with you. You can only hold space for them to be honest with you.
Yeah, I kind of do it after, like, we're vibing a little bit, maybe cracking a few jokes, and after the 20 questions, and there's not enough to talk about. And then try to go something more intimate, to be something more personal, heart level.
Yeah. I think that's beautiful. I think that the United States can really stand to catch up with a lot of other countries. We're very, like, hypersexual or homophobic or something. It's just really a huge disconnect. And it's something that I've just noticed more and more in my work, in the conversations that I have with clients. I think it's really unfortunate because we're missing so much. Because, I mean, there's times when there's certain people, if I see them getting emotional, right? Even in like just regular social settings, I put my hand on your knee, you need to know I'm not hitting on you. I just saw your eyes tear up, So it's like that's something that has to, one person at a time, start to heal so that we can heal the collective. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Well, please stop by my booth. I'm here all weekend long over in the plaza level. It's still on this floor. And my book is now available at the7relationshipagreements.com. You can also go to my website at Holistic Touch by Nazra, and you can learn more about my services there too. So, thank you.
Thank you.